Humans are dumb, aren't they? Speak to your friends and you'll find out firsthand. We are the dominant species on this planet, but realistically we're just a bunch of bumbling buffoons. Not only that, but gullible buffoons, and we believe a lot of stupid stuff. Maybe because we've heard it and we just trust our sources, maybe because it's some sort of myth, because we are dumb. Today I'm going to be breaking down preconceived notions of a lot of stuff. We're going to start off with very obvious stuff that is fake, and then as we work our way down, it's going to be stuff that you actually thought was real, but actually isn't. And just a warning before you leave a bunch of hate, I'm going to be playing devil's advocate a lot. There are some of these things that even I still believe in, having kind of read them up, and I will be playing devil's advocate. So if I completely crap on something that's like intrinsic to your personality, then whatever. Like I'm just following what's on the iceberg, and I'm going to make the case for each thing that I'm going to be covering today. This is going to be controversial, so please do bear that in mind. If you get triggered or you get offended or you don't like what I have to say, just exit the video. And finally, before we get into things, there's one entry that I'm going to exclude, and it's probably the most obvious one because I don't want to shatter anyone's childhood. That person, if you're a child, get off this video. You shouldn't be here. So without further ado, this is the dumb things you believe in Iceberg explained. We're starting off nice and simple here. I used to believe in the tooth fairy. I'm sure a lot of you did as well. If you don't know what the tooth fairy is somehow, I guess it's the idea that when you're a child and you lose your baby teeth, a fairy comes in and leaves money under your pillow. Obviously, if you are old enough to be watching this video, you would know that it is not an actual thing, it is just your parents. Is there any versions of the tooth fairy or later things that we'll get onto where it's your parents that do something for you in other countries? Like the tooth fairy and a few of them that we'll just get into now are kind of like Western ideas. I believe the tooth fairy began in 18th century France, and it is very popular. Most parents do it, I would say. But either way, it's basic stuff, so let's just move down. The Easter Bunny is up next on our list, and I don't think many people outside the USA do it. I know that in the UK, I don't know anyone that's done it, really. But the idea is that at Easter time, a giant man-sized bunny breaks into your garden and leaves chocolate eggs around it. I'm not sure what you do if you are raised in a flat, but that is the idea. It is complete hokum. Again, it is your parents. But the thing is, though, is that kind of kids, especially young children, will believe in anything if there is a sliver of proof, aka the chocolate or the money under your pillow. They will believe in it, especially if it's giving them rewards. And I think that is a testament to kind of like logic with young people, is that they don't really understand. You have to kind of get a bit older before you start questioning, wait, is this real? Most children find out about all of this stuff by like age 10, but it is those first few years where it's kind of fascinating to think that if you tell a child these stories, they will just believe it blindly. I'm going to get some angry comments if I don't include this, but I'm going to have to put God on the list. And here's the thing, though, is that the jury's still out on God, isn't it? I understand why the creator of the iceberg would put it here, and there are a lot of people that will ridicule religious believers, and if you do that, then just get in the bin, to be honest. The entire point of religion is faith. Maybe there is a God, maybe there isn't. You'll have some people that say, I will put faith into the idea of the afterlife and God and religion. And some people that say, unless you give me some hard, concrete evidence, I don't want to hear it. And to be honest, that is a completely fair point of view, as long as you don't go out of your way to ridicule and mock people that believe in the afterlife and religion because you think you're just enlightened. But I have two kind of rules. Don't talk about politics and don't talk about religion on the internet. So that's probably as much as I'm going to say. I understand why it's on the iceberg, but I would be a bit more apprehensive about putting it there myself and saying it's a dumb thing that people would believe, but I do understand why it is there. This one is actually a bit of a wake-up call, actually. This is definitely the first one where I'm like, okay, actually, wait. They have a point. Mother Nature. Here's the thing about nature. Nature doesn't know and doesn't care what it's doing. Nature is just doing things, right? It doesn't care about humans. It doesn't care about whatever. It just happens. Nature has no concept of like the wider world because it doesn't think. It just exists. And so I guess when it comes down to it, it's like if we piss off nature, it doesn't know because it doesn't have any thought capacity to know. Things just want to survive and reproduce. That's why we see anything in nature. That's why we see plants and trees and animals and stuff. So I mean, that's really the long and short of it, to be honest. I don't really know if this is my opinion, but I do like to play devil's advocate, just like the ENTP I am. Proverb is the next item on our list, and if you don't know what a proverb is, it's kind of like a short story or saying. It has like a broader meaning outside what it's actually saying. We're talking like, teach a man how to fish, the early bird gets the worm, great minds think alike, attack is the best form of defense, that kind of stuff. I really love a good proverb, and if you can memorize a few, you can sound really intelligent. Here's the thing though, it doesn't go much further than that, because proverbs tend to be extremely hypocritical of each other. You'll have some of them that kind of say one thing and others that say the complete opposite. Two heads are better than one, but at the same time, paddle your own canoe. Proverbs can make you sound smart, and they can provide you with kind of good information on life, at least if you choose to follow one, but they do contradict each other, so proverbs aren't really the best thing to go off, I guess. The one. The idea of the one person on this earth. One person who is your soulmate. This is bleak. Like, you're not gonna lie, this is bleak. The sad part I guess the sad part of this entry is that you're not special, nor are you fussy enough to have one person who would make anything and everything work for you. It doesn't exist. I would assume that hypothetically, like scientifically, there might be one person who is the most ideal for you, but you would choose anyone in the first couple 100 million. To say that there's 7 billion people on the world, and you are only compatible with one is just extremely unlikely. You know, the chances are you would never meet this person, even if you were, you know. They could be from a completely different country to you. So the chances are you would never find the one, even if there was the one, which, again, you're not special enough to be someone else's the one, nor are you fussy enough to only have one soulmate. The chances are, unfortunately, that you'll settle for someone who's good enough, and someone that won't want to make you claw your hair out after 30 years of marriage. But again, that's just me playing devil's advocate, like the ENTP I am. Next up, we have Myers-Briggs. I'm going to put this one in the same category as horoscopes because it's identity by tribalism, the idea that you are in your group and that gives you an identity. As we all know, every single one of the 7 billion people on Earth can be easily fitted into 16 categories, let alone 12 like horoscopes. I've got to say that I'm more of a fan of Myers-Briggs because at least that's based on some sort of fact, at least there's some sort of personality in there because you answer the questions yourself rather than you're just born as a Capri Sun and that's your life. You're just born in April, so you're the same star sign as Hitler. You have the same attributes as Hitler. Stalin was an ESTJ, so if you're an ESTJ, you're the same as Stalin. Brilliant. Personality is just much more complex than that, and it's so hard to fit people into 16 groups, let alone 12 based on their personality alone, because there's a plethora of personalities in the world. There's more than 16, there must be. It's fun to think about, right? It is a little bit of fun. That it's like, this is my group, you know, this is my crew, my gang. But if you let being a virgin or a Capri Sun kind of dictate your life, then that's a bit rough, right? Like, you have to take into account that some things just aren't based on when you were born, right? Like, your personality is so much more than just you were born on April 13th. Or you were born on September 12th. Most of it is a good mixture of biological and sociological events. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, it's just kind of stuff that it's fun, just maybe don't dig into it too much, but who am I to say, right? I'm just some stranger on the internet, so you do you, to be honest. Cracking open a cold one. Okay. Alright, hello. We are now recording from the confines of my garden. It's a nice day, so I thought I'd kind of go out and do that. So, this is, I guess, how it's going to be. And it'll be a nice kind of calm and mellow experience. So, yeah, anyway, up next we have If the Wind Changes, You'll Stay Like That. A classic by most regards. I think it's just like for parents tell their kids that so they don't look stupid, I guess. In case you don't know what it is, it's like if you do this and then the wind changes, you get stuck like that. Like, oh my god, I'm stuck. Yeah, it's a classic. It's a something that you believe. And when honestly, actually, when I was a kid, I did that, and then I tried to make the wind change. The human eye is not that gentle. It's not that frail. If you go cross-eyed, you will not get stuck like that. And I guess, yeah, the origin is probably that parents just wanted their kids to stop monging around. It's a fun one, it's a classic, but it doesn't actually exist. So if you didn't know, you actually can kind of go cross-eyed and no one cares. Like, you won't get stuck like that. Flat Earth theory, right? I've covered it before. Stupid, ludicrous idea. I'm not really going to give it the time of day. Does not exist. The world is not flat. Then we have the world was going to end in 2012. That's the next item up on the list. And if you're watching this, you know that it didn't. This was back in the day quite a big concern. I'm sure a lot of younger viewers might not know this, but there were predictions because of the Mayan calendar ending in 2012. People thought the world was going to end on the 12th of the 12th of the 12th. And the only thing that happened was the greatest album of all time dropped then. So no, my J2O spilt it all. Oh no. Oh, the entire thing. These are expensive as well. That's such a shame. I just got some grass in my mouth. Things could not be getting any worse. Yeah, but the world didn't end in 2012. My world just did end just then. But the world didn't end in 2012. As you all know. So there's nothing really to say. Some people were going crazy over it, though. It was a really mad time. People were just withdrawing all of their cash and spending tons of money before. But yeah, we were lucky. We were lucky to see 2013 and everything since. The political compass. This is definitely. There are flaws, right? There are clear flaws. The political compass doesn't take into account a lot of stuff. Politics is so complex. To have 4 quadrants is just a gross oversimplification. Some websites do them better than others, but the political compass itself is just too oversimplified, and also it skews to the left. There are a lot of people that classify themselves as right-wing that will be dragged towards the left because of the phrasing and certain questions that are asked. First of all, it's too simple, and second of all, even if it does exist, it's a flawed test, because a lot of people find problems with their results. But it does give you this really nice kind of visual, and that's why it's so popular, is that you're like, oh, look at me. This will be my profile pic. A dumb thing that you might believe is that France is bad at wars. We love to take the piss out of France, right? We love to. Being from the UK, I kind of take pride in messing with the French. But yes, they were humiliated in World War II. That did happen. But for most of its time, France has been absolutely a monster. They conquered Britain in 1066, and it was Spain, Britain, and France who were at one point in the world, superpowers, and they were going around building their empires. The French was the 3rd largest, I think, in the world. There's a reason why a lot of Africa speaks French. It's because the French won a lot of wars in Africa. And not only that, but they were always fighting the British. They say that the French helped America win the War of Independence. Without French help, it could have gone the other way. Obviously, we had the Napoleonic Wars as well, in which Napoleon took over the entirety of Europe. He beat them in, 7 coalitions or something. He absolutely destroyed the entirety of Europe. So the French, historically, are not bad at war. They just happen to have a really humiliating loss very, recently in terms of wars. And that kind of left a sour taste in everyone's. It's like saying a TV show that had a bad last season is bad overall. And it's you did have, 6 really good seasons and then 1 awful one. So yeah, not actually that bad at war. This next one might get me a bit of hate. I expect to get a good few dislikes on this video, but it is the idea that girls aren't into nice guys. Here's the thing. They're just not into you. Sorry, mate. I think that Diane Nguyen sums this best up in BoJack Horseman, one of my favourite shows. She says, there are no good guys and bad guys. They're just guys who do good things sometimes and bad things other times. And it's a good kind of quote, and it does apply. Especially as a teenager, I can definitely remember at some point just going why is this girl that I'm interested in going out with that guy? Because he is a douche. And that's a fair way to feel, but it also lacks maturity, because we've seen it happen. Everyone has seen it happen, but this is the kind of thing where that girl that you're interested in has to work it out for herself that the guy is trouble. And you can't force her to do that. No one owes you a relationship, you know? And it is the same thing with like guys that go after pretty girlfriends, but they don't have much substance to them. Like you have to let him come to the conclusion that she's as interesting as a wet turnip. But also just generally don't label yourself a nice guy, because that kind of comes off a bit incelly these days. But there is another entry that's kind of related to this further down, so I'll leave all of that kind of stuff till a little bit later. Yeah, porn is what sex is like. Quick one here, no it's not. If you've had it, you would know. I'm sure for some people it is, for porn stars, but porn is not what sex is like, no. Kind of on topic is the idea of the virginity and how it has like importance and meaning. Not like it has meaning because we give it like meaning. It's a social construct, yes. It doesn't actually have any value, even though we apply value to it. And so, like, if you believe it does, then that's just your own opinion, but, like, intrinsically, it doesn't have any value whatsoever. I understand, it's an important kind of rite of passage, isn't it? And it's definitely a memory, a story that you'd want to at least be positive. So you don't want to just go and throw it about. It's a sign of purity and stuff, but in terms of actual worth, if you're paying, you know, if you're paying, there is no actual value to it. It's just something that happens. And it's, you know, it shouldn't even be a thing, to be honest. I guess don't take it for granted, but also there's nothing wrong with not having had sex, so. Cow milk is good for cats. Apparently it's not. I didn't know this, but I don't have a cat. And I don't think I've ever fed a cat milk, but apparently most of them are lactose intolerant. So don't go feeding them milk, I guess. Learn something new every day here at the Fox Kimbo channel. Biased means untrue. This one is actually quite interesting. This entry says that being biased is almost near possible to avoid. And to be honest, you know, it's kind of right. Like, no one can truly be completely unbiased, because there are just things that you wouldn't even know about that might shape your views or the way you might conduct something. It's impossible to avoid, and it's a range of biological, sociological, and psychological factors that do contribute to this. And so if everyone is biased, you have to start to kind of, I guess, roll with it, kind of get with the program. Cultural, sociological, biological, and psychological factors have all come into the words that are leaving my mouth right now and how I present them. Does that mean that every single thing that comes out of my mouth is complete bullshit? No, obviously not. But it also doesn't mean that every single thing I say is necessarily true. This means that perhaps you can listen to me and kind of question, is what he's saying true? And you can choose to disagree. And that's great. Do think for yourself. Kind of get out there, think for yourself, because perhaps some things I say will be true, and like, to my knowledge, they are. But I'm biased because I wrote the script, I'm reading it, you know, so all of that. I'm not really good with words today. So next up we have the Naturalist Fallacy. The idea that because something is natural, it therefore makes it good. No, it's not. That's lies. Complete lies. You know, we have natural disasters, natural. And there's, I don't know, I guess specific examples like women can have children, therefore women should have children. It's like, not always. Humans for thousands of years have eaten meat. We're kind of an omnivorous species, so that's just what comes to us naturally. Why should vegans, you know, like, no, just do what you want. Just because something was made in nature doesn't necessarily mean it's automatically good, and just because something was made in a lab doesn't necessarily and automatically make it bad. There's not really too much more to say about this one, like, I think I've covered it. You don't need condoms if you're doing butt stuff. Yes, you do. Stay safe. Do not risk it. Wrap it before you tap it. Cryptids seem to be up next. Cryptids do not exist. Most of them. It says on the Iceberg, most of them are just regular animals with shit on their faces. I do like that they're kind of taking a bit of a jokey approach to some of the explanations, but cryptids, I'm not going to be covering any more cryptids. I've done so many videos on them now, like 4, and I think I will probably end it there with them. Like, I have a bunch of crazies that are just commenting on my videos like, oh my god, I can't believe you said that Vegemite didn't exist. But yeah, most cryptids out there are complete and utter bull. Most of them. I'm not going to say all of them. Maybe there is 1 or 2 species that we haven't discovered, but anything that is a humanoid version of an animal, it doesn't exist. Oh yeah, this one's kind of rough, actually. You are a visual learner. Actually, you're not. I only found this about 2 weeks ago, but apparently different types of learning don't actually exist. You can't be a hands-on learner or someone that's really good at like listening, learning, and you can't be a visual learner either, which is kind of blew my mind because I thought that was a thing. I just thought there was different types of learning and everyone gets to kind of specialize in one. I would have called myself a visual learner quite recently, but apparently there is no evidence to back that there are different forms of learning, at least no major studies. Dogs can't look up. They actually can. This is a myth. I don't know where it started. I don't know who started it or where it started, but dogs can look up. Pigs cannot look up physically. It's impossible with their neck. They can't actually look up. But dogs, it takes them like a bit of kind of, I guess, maneuvering, but they can. It's very tough for them to look directly up, like up to the sky and up to the stars, but they could if they like really wanted to. They just have no real reason for doing so. Most of the time they'll just get on their backs. Newton didn't get hit on the head by an apple. It's a fun story. I actually believed this one till quite recently. And as I say quite recently, I mean, like, when I wrote the script. But it didn't actually happen. He only discovered gravity because he was a clever clogs. He studied really hard. And he was an extremely intelligent man. The USA won World War II. If you're living in the States, you might think this. I don't know many people from outside the States that think this. But newsflash, it wasn't you. Yeah, the idea that they won the war just by them coming in is a bit overblown. They finished the war, but by no means was it just the USA. Definitely a massive factor and an attribute to the Allies, but I guess most unbiased historians will try and say that if you were to put it down to just one country, you'd probably put it to the Soviets. There's a saying that the war was won with British intelligence, American steel, and Soviet blood. And yeah, America did a lot, but the British were doing just as much cracking Enigma, and the Soviets were literally getting slaughtered in Stalingrad. Like, it was kind of rough. Definitely came in to do a lot. And to be honest, take any one of those three out, and it's going to be like an Axis victory, perhaps. Or at the very least, the war is extended by God knows how many years. But to say that it was them that won it, that they came in and then it's just like game over, is a bit overblowing a lot of facts. It's just a very complex idea. And to say that one country specifically won it is like, no, you're a nice guy. We touched on this before, and again, I'm going to get a bit of hate for this, but a nice guy doesn't call himself a nice guy. He's just a guy who happens to be nice. And by the way, nice people don't do things for rewards. Nice people are just nice because they're nice. Nice people don't go around being nice because they think they're going to get some sort of, action later on. They're just nice. So by calling yourself a nice guy compared to like bad boys or whatever, you're just trying to like get laid, really. And again, that's not nice. Good guys, bad guys, neither, really. It's just, you do good stuff sometimes and you'll undoubtedly do some bad things. So I before E, except after C. I think if you speak English, you will know this, because whereas most English rules, there are like things that can be broken, I before E except after C is generally more of a guide, because there's just so many words in which E comes before the letter I. Weird. I can sense that you don't care that much, so I'm going to move on. Confirmation bias. I could talk about this one for ages. I have so much to say about it, but definitely in the last couple of years, we've kind of come into this thing where your opinions are facts, and facts are now opinions. We've all done this, is that you'll have a point of view and then you will find a study that maybe supports it, and then you're like, haha, this, and you just disregard about 3 studies that contradict it on the way to finding that study that you're like, yeah, this is the one. You pick the truth that you believe in. In the famous words of Bastille, rejecting stuff on the contrary is just very close-minded. The fact of the matter is, whilst perhaps you've got some ideas, you're wrong about a lot of stuff. Like, a lot of stuff. Humans are wrong all the time about everything, and one of the most important things to do is step outside your comfort zone. Take in ideas and concepts that challenge your fundamental beliefs, and wonder why. This is something that I do love to do because, again, I love playing devil's advocate. I love to kind of have an idea and think of why does this person who violently disagrees with me, what is their reasoning behind their views and beliefs? And it's one of the best things we can do and do to algorithms, making us kind of forced into our own echo chambers. It doesn't happen as much as it used to. When you're stuck in a circle jerk, everything outside seems ludicrous and everything inside is fact. And this leads to radicalization and people with completely insane beliefs that are able to rationalize it because they're around a bunch of people who are like-minded crazy. So definitely, if there's one thing I can say, have a look at the other side and think why. Challenge your beliefs, challenge your fundamental beliefs, because confirmation bias is really, really bad right now, and it's probably only going to get worse. Columbus was an American hero. Yeah, the more I find out about this guy, the more I don't like him. Firstly, it's quite well known that the Vikings found the Americas first, so he wasn't the first man to discover America, he was the first man to kind of bring it back to the old world. And second of all, he didn't even find, the States. He found some islands, in the Bermuda, didn't he? And so he never stepped foot in what would become the United States. And he was, targeted for, some sort of patriotism back in the 1800s. And everyone was like, oh, yeah, okay, we like Columbus now. He was a bit of a bad dude. He was not a nice guy, apparently. He was also wrong. He thought it was going to take him to India, and then it didn't, and, all that stuff. But I'm sure if you're American, you'll already know that. Yeah, so these days, he kind of has his name dragged through the mud a little bit more. Alphas. Okay, yeah, this is an interesting one. The entire kind of male sociological hierarchy. So I guess the reasoning behind this is that alphas, the alpha male of any group or situation, fluctuates, right? There's no one that is absolutely all the time in control of everything. You just can't. It's just not able to happen. And so while some people are very dominant in specific areas, if you take them out of their comfort zone, they're not going to be an alpha. No one's an alpha or a beta by design. We're not made like that. The only things that there are alphas and betas of are wolves kept in captivity. I mean, personally for me, I don't think this is to say that the concept of the alpha male and beta male is completely gone. There are some people that are more dominant and some people that are more submissive. But if we're saying naturally born alphas, then they don't actually, no one is always an alpha every single moment of every single day. This one's quite sad. The idea that your pets understand you. No, I hate to break it to you, but they actually don't. I mean, take out the ideas of gerbils and hamsters and stuff, because obviously they don't. Cats, again, not really. Dogs are the only ones that we really say can kind of understand because they are a lot more responsive. And the thing is with dogs is that they can understand tone, right? Humans can do it with each other. We can understand each other's tone even if we don't speak the same language. And dogs can do that to us. They can understand tone, but they can't really understand complex words. They have more Pavlovian responses to certain words and buzz phrases like walk or their name, and they will react to those words because they know what those specific words mean. But if you say, Rufus, do you want pork or beef tonight? The dog's not going to understand. Do you want to go for our stroll at 6 p.m. or would you rather 8 p.m? Or they don't know. And so it's fun to kind of talk to your dogs and have them talk back to you and your cats and whatever animal you have, but they don't actually fully grasp what you say. They just understand how you say it. And that is a big thing for them, is understanding, are you angry, are you sad, are you this or that? So yeah, sad, but it's true. Australia doesn't exist. For you radical Australia non-believers out there, actually, you'd be surprised to find out it does exist. 2% of my audience is actually from Australia, so big up the old Aussie viewers. Love you guys. And yeah, apparently it is a real place in the world, not just some sort of myth. Almost all conspiracy theories. This is fair. I've had a good few comments of complete crazies and tinfoil hats in the comments. Oh, I can't believe you don't think 9/11 was nuked. And yeah, basically I would say that a good 99% of conspiracy theories are false. Maybe once in a blue moon there might be one or two that's okay, actually they got a point there, but for the most part they're just nonsense. Stalin won World War II. We kind of covered America earlier. The idea that Stalin won it is also a bit overblown because, again, it just wasn't one country. It was a combined effort of allied forces. Take one of these countries out and the war is going to be prolonged, if not going to be, I guess, an Axis victory. Again, it was British intelligence, it was American steel, and it was Soviet blood. So I don't have anything more to add for that one. This is actually a really fun one. Speaking of World War II, we have the idea that carrots make you see better in the dark. And this is actually, I guess it's like propaganda, not really propaganda, but basically, so British intelligence was creating the radar, and the Germans were kind of wondering, it's like, why is the RAF so good at shooting down our planes, especially at night? They're just getting us all the time. You know, we can't see them coming, and they just know where we are. Long story short, if you've seen the Imitation Game, you kind of know that half the battle is creating this technology, and then the other half is keeping it secret. And so what the British did was that I guess they kind of sent messages to each other, fake messages, saying that carrots, it was the carrots that they were eating, made their eyesight better, and they were gaining an advantage in the war because they were eating so many carrots. I don't know if the Axis kind of looked at that and were like, oh, they're onto something, get them. Get us some carrots, or if they actually knew they were full of shit. But that is the story, and these days it's kind of like used to get your kids to eat more carrots. So it's a win-win, really. It's a really funny story, and it has practical effects even in the modern day. Kissing should always involve the tongue. This one goes out to all of my tonguey Tobiases out there, and all of the younger viewers watching. Just a tip from a random stranger on the internet. No, it doesn't. You can kiss, you know, a lot of times people just go and like, as the saying goes, sometimes less is more. All cats are girls and all dogs are boys. Okay then, Troy Barnes. Do better. Like, just do better. I do like the jokey entries, though. I do like the jokey entries. If you believe that cats are girls and dogs are boys, well then, I don't care. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think that cats are girls and dogs are boys? Oh, this one stings. How attractive you are. On the one hand, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? And even if just 1% of the population find you attractive, that's 70 million people in the world. You have plenty and plenty of choices. Obviously, you know, everyone's beautiful, all that jazz, you know, people have beautiful things about them, and it's not just skin deep. But that being said, if we put every single person's looks on a scale from 0 to 10, most people are going to be about 5, right? Here's the thing though, most people don't think they're a 5, at least not a plurality of people. You know, that's just how averages work. Most people would be somewhere around a 4, 5, or a 6, because that is just average, but most people don't rate themselves like that. Some do, a lot of them do, but not all of them. There was a YouGov study done in the UK, and the results were that 19% of people thought they were under average, they were less than a 5 attractive, and it was 34% of people thought they were more than a 5, a 6 or above. So obviously there is a bit of a gap there. I mean, there's 15% more people thinking they're more attractive. About 7% said they didn't know or they didn't want to say, and about, I think like 60% or something put themselves at about 5. I guess some people kind of find themselves more attractive than average, when in actuality, if you were to, like, I guess, properly do it, there'd be about 10% in each different number. Just remember though, 70 million people is an entire Thailand. It's the population of Thailand, basically. So you've got a Thailand's worth of people if you are just found attractive by 1% of people. Nobody has died in your house. Unless you have a very new house, this is probably the case. And even if you do have a very new house, what about the land it's on? People have probably died on the land that it's on. There's thought to have been 100 billion people in the world ever. And 93 billion of which are probably dead now because there's only 7 billion of us going. So the question is, they must have died somewhere. So the chances are 93 billion people, probably a few of them in your house. Or at the very least, like the location at where it is at, you know? Finland isn't real. This is the first one where I'm like, nah, Finland, I don't agree with this. Finland is not real. You cannot say anything to kind of convince me otherwise. If we're talking like the amount of paid maternity they get, free healthcare, I would assume, they're the happiest country in the world. Their coffee drink consumption rates are like through the roof. They listen to heavy metal. This place doesn't exist. This is like cuckoo land. So yeah, Finland, heard it from me. I swear, this is my word. Finland does not exist. Don't believe the lies. Cogito ergo sum, or I think therefore I am. This has actually brought a very interesting point to light, which is, if you are the only one who exists, why you? You're not that special that you need to be the only one who is, I guess, observed from whatever great powers may be. The likelihood is, if you are conscious, then everyone else is, because again, why would it just be you? Oxygen kills you. We all breathe oxygen, we all die. Therefore, it must be this damn oxygen. I mean, again, don't really have to say anything. This is definitely kind of telling me how far down the iceberg we're getting, because some of these entries are like, okay, wait, who thinks this? STEM expertise is transferable across disciplines. Just because you're an engineer doesn't mean you know anything about the human body or outer space. It's a fair point. It is actually a fair point. Take it from probably the least qualified person in the world to tell you this, an artist. Just because you're a clever clogs in one subject area doesn't mean that you'll necessarily be smart in another. Bill Gates got beaten in about 7 moves by Magnus Carlsen, and he's one of the smartest guys, at least richest, but definitely extremely intelligent man, beaten 7 moves in a game of chess. STEM subjects are revered for their prestige, and, to study a STEM subject, you've got to be smart. The likelihood is that you might be able to slip in and get a couple questions, but you won't know that other subject as well as your own. And to say that you will is a bit arrogant, maybe? I guess it's better to be completely knowledgeable in a niche subject area compared to a jack of all trades, master of none. But having said that, they do say sometimes that's a bit better than being a master of one. I don't really know, though. I'm chatting out of my arse here. When you do it, it's cute. No, no, it's not. So there's 2 reasons why someone would say this. First of all, like in an attractive way, like, oh yeah, when I do it, it's cute. If someone's found a cute way to eat spaghetti, I haven't met them yet. And I guess the second one is if you're trying to justify your bad behavior by saying, like, if I do it, it's... No, you're just trying to justify bad behavior, just being a dick. The chances are, if it annoys you, it annoys everyone else to stop doing it. On to day 3 of trying to record this video. Passive aggressiveness. Yeah, it says here some people actually have authentic feelings. Not entirely sure what this means, but I will say one thing on the matter, and that is that to be upfront with your feelings, to tell someone to their face, I have a problem with what you did or what you said, is always better than being snarky and sly and hinting at stuff. That doesn't really work, because how can someone correct their mistakes if they don't know what the mistakes might have been? Does it exist? I mean, it's not really aggressiveness. It's not really, it's just snide, to be honest, passive aggressiveness. I couldn't really say very much for this one. Human pheromones is up next, and I actually didn't know that this is kind of a myth. Apparently there is no scientific data to back the belief that pheromones actually exist, at least within humans, right? There's the idea that in nature they exist, but within humans there have been studies, but apparently nothing conclusive so far to suggest that we do have pheromones. And if you don't know what pheromones are, they are kind of like scent signals. They are kind of your body's natural, I guess, scent, and that sends signals to potential mates or even friends. But I guess there's no use in me telling you they exist, because at least in humans, studies haven't conclusively found that they kind of work. It says here, many examples exist in animals, but their role within humans remains uncertain since adults don't have any functioning, whatever that word says is, organ which processes pheromone signals in animals. Science mumbo jumbo, but apparently it doesn't exist. From here on out, there will be a few entries that I will omit from the video because they don't really fit in with the channel, but there's like 104 entries, and this video is already at least 40 minutes. So I will link the iceberg in the description, but up next is talent. What is talent? Natural talent is the idea that someone is born a certain way that gives them incredible advantages over the average person at whatever skill they're trying to kind of develop and learn. Here's the thing though, this is doing a great disservice to people who do amazing things. Maybe some people are genetically kind of predisposed to things that might make them more advantageous, but you have to work hard to be the best at anything in the world. And to say that a world-class singer or a world-class footballer or athlete or whatever you want to say is just naturally born with it is incredibly disrespectful. And it doesn't make you any better at whatever that is. Nobody is just born with it. They develop their skills over time. There's a reason you don't see 4-year-olds in the Premier League, and there's a reason that you don't see a 7-year-old headlining Glastonbury. It's because you have to develop these skills. You can be born with some pretty incredible things that might make you more likely to do so. Michael Phelps, for example, is born with, I think, double the lung capacity of the average human, but he still had to work and graft every day of his life to get those medals. Saying that someone was just born with it is just disrespecting all of the hard work and effort that they've put into whatever it might be. This is a fun one to talk about. It's the idea that you would survive the apocalypse. Now, I do love this one because people that don't know anything about surviving love to think that they'd just be Daryl Dixon and, shooting zombies or whatever it might be, whatever kind of doomsday scenario there is. People love to think that they'd be the last man or woman standing. Or there's the alternative that you would be the first one dead, and let's be honest, most of us would be the first ones dead. I'm not going to try and project my insecurities onto you, but I can't filter water. I don't know how to do that. I can't drive. I know very minimal first aid. I've never handled any weapons. I would most likely lose in a fist fight to the average grown man. I can't start a fire without a lighter. I wouldn't know how to do that. Just these very basic survival skills are completely lost on the general person in the modern day. We live such comfortable lives. If you were to be washed up on a desert island, how would you actually survive? Because making fire takes hours and I don't even know how to do it. I'm sure that the chances are you might not either, at least not with the special tools to do so. I don't know how to fish, I don't know which berries are poisonous and which ones aren't. I don't know nothing. I don't know Morse code, I don't know how to tune a radio. If I was Tom Hanks in Castaway, I would be dead within days. So, most people don't get to be the Daryl Dixon or the Rick Grimes. And to be honest, even if none of your survival skills ever kind of went into anything, you might just randomly die, you might just get killed by just a person. When it gets down to it, we live such sheltered lives and we would all die very, very soon. A pessimist is never disappointed. This is actually false. A pessimist can be disappointed, and the problem with this is that once a pessimist is disappointed, they are disappointed that they became disappointed because they are a pessimist. The pessimist will become even more disappointed at the disappointment, and because of that, the pessimist will become disappointed at the disappointed. You will live to meet aliens. Yeah, it's a shame. We might live to discover aliens, but unless they're doing some faster than bull, we won't see them because we would have already seen them by now coming at us. We might see them, it's unlikely, but the chances of you shaking hands with Sklap of the Sklap galaxy is really, really unlikely. Pretty much anything about the deep web, yet this one, I've been a victim of this, state of mind, in which, in one of my older videos, I kind of discussed how there's a lot of illegal things you can do there. These things do exist, but a lot of people were commenting oh, this isn't what we're doing, I'm just trying to hide my internet, I'm not trying to hire hitmen, and that's fair enough. These people shouldn't really be lumped into the nefarious. So whilst the deep web is kind of a scary place to hear about, a lot of the stories are overblown. So I've gone after nice guys quite a bit in this video, and now ladies, it is your turn. You are never going to change him. It's not going to happen. Stop trying. If he's an asshole now, he's going to be an asshole in 3 weeks' time, in 3 months' time. People don't change, not that fast. It's extremely tough for you to become a new person overnight. And to be honest, a lot of the time, if you go, but I'll keep on working at it, when do you stop? When do you give up? No amount of promises to be a better boyfriend is going to change the fact that that dude, deep down, is not good for you. In the history of I can change him, no one has ever changed him. It does not exist. It's a unicorn, it's a leprechaun. It's never happened. And it's a shame, and it might be something that you have to work out for yourself, but it's not gonna happen. Hypocrisy is worse than being wrong. Apparently, according to this Iceberg, it isn't. Because apparently being a prick is still being a prick. Neither of them are good. Being hypocritical is always kind of seen as a bad thing, and obviously being wrong is not ideal. You don't want to be wrong. I guess it depends on the situation and what you're being wrong about versus what you're being hypocritical about, because to be wrong, you can change your ideas later on. But if you're wrong about something fundamental and you stick to your guns and you carry on being wrong, that's the problem. Being hypocritical, on the other hand, is perhaps selfish, perhaps a bit weak. And, I wouldn't say that either of them are worse than the other. It just depends on the situation, right? Your parents might get back together. Rough. Rough. White people. Rough. You are alone. Let's talk real for a sec, because this is that you are alone. So the idea is that that's a stupid thing that you're believing. You are not alone. No matter who you are, you're going to have so many people around you, your family, your friends, whoever. And you can feel lonely. We all do. Even when surrounded by the people you love best, it is okay to feel lonely. And it does suck, but at least it helps us appreciate when we do feel loved and we do feel connected to those around us. But don't ever think that you're alone, because you're not. And I'm not doing this to plug myself, I swear to God, but I'm going to have a link in the description for my Discord. If you ever feel like there's no one to talk to me, a random stranger on the internet, and I will try and get back to you with some advice, some unfiltered, unbiased advice, because again, I don't know you. And just if you need someone to listen, I'm not a therapist, but I will try and help out the best I can, because loneliness is one of the worst feelings in the world. I'm also going to link some sources just in case you are feeling a bit lonely, for like websites that can kind of teach you how to at least make it more comfortable for yourself. And I really do hope that if you are feeling lonely, you can kind of seek out the help that you need. But please do remember that I'm not a therapist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just a person, and I don't expect to be treated like a therapist. But I do have some eyes and I can read your messages. I do have ears and I can listen to what you have to say. With that said, we live in a society. Apparently we don't. Apparently we don't even live in a society. I mean, I don't even know what's going on anymore with this iceberg. We live in a society. No, we don't. We don't live in a society. That's what society wants you to think. Lastly, after 3 days of recording, we finally got the final piece to the puzzle, the most dark, the most mysterious thing of all. The dumbest thing that you believe is that making tea in the microwave is okay. If you make tea in the microwave, I hope you choke on it. The only way to correctly make tea is tea bag in the cup, boiling water in there, milk in there, stir it till it's a nice kind of golden brown, and then chuck it out and make yourself a coffee instead. Tea is for suckers! Coffee is elite. Anyways, that is it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, would you mind hitting the old subscribe button? That would be fantastic. We just hit 16k the other day, and we're kind of moving in quite fast on 17, so that'd be great to see. As I mentioned in the video, I have Discord, but I also have Instagram and Twitter, and also a Patreon, so go follow me on them, and it'd be really nice if you were to support me too. I'm just a poor uni student, please. Speaking of Patreon, shout out to my current patrons, Cage101 and Chris M, who are just the boys. I love those guys. Also, shout out to Meal FTZPLTC. I believe I've covered one of his videos before. I think he actually did the Do Not Research Iceberg, so thank you very, very much. And I think he was also in the premiere for that, so really thank you so much, man. I do truly appreciate it. I hope I kind of made you proud with this video. Aside from that, please let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see me do next, because I'm only 69 videos in, hey! And I'm already out of ideas. Thank you for watching.